In a world where change is the only constant, Mo Shamil stands at the forefront, guiding title professionals to not just grow their businesses, but to master the art of innovation. With every episode, you're handed the keys to unlock unparalleled growth and stay ahead of the curve. Get ready for a transformative journey.
There is a very specific feeling you get when you're sitting at a big mahogany table, a pen in your hand, and you're about to sign the final papers to buy a house.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for decades, that moment has just been pure excitement.
Right.
The culmination of a dream.
Right, exactly. But recently, that excitement has been replaced by this quiet, gnawing terror.
Yeah, it really has.
Because right before you wire your life savings, a thought creeps in, what if the person on the other end of this email isn't actually who I think they are?
And that is a terrifying thought.
It is. So, welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we're looking at why that moment of signing for a house has become the single most dangerous financial transaction of your life.
And I'm your resident expert for today. It truly is an invisible crisis, and it's fundamentally reshaping how we handle one of the core pillars of our economy.
Yeah, exactly. We've been digging through some incredible data on this today, specifically 2 incredibly detailed documents from CertifID.
Right, the new reports.
Yeah, we have their comprehensive 2026 State of Wire Fraud Report, alongside their really tactical guide, the 22 Essential Wire Fraud Prevention Best Practices.
Both are just packed with insights.
They really are.
Yes.
And whether you are a home buyer, a real estate agent, a title professional, or an attorney, the reality is that you are operating in a high-stakes environment where a single click can literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, one mistake is all it takes.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to understand exactly how the fraud landscape has mutated in 2026, why the old ways of protecting transactions are failing, and the specific layers of defense we need now.
Let's start by looking at the sheer scale of the battlefield, right? Because the macro numbers for 2024 are they're staggering.
I mean, they really blew my mind.
Yeah, cybercrime has officially reached epidemic levels. We're talking about hitting $16.6 billion in reported losses.
Wait, $16.6 billion?
Billion, with a B. That is a 33% increase from just the prior year.
Wow, that is an insane jump.
It is. But what we really need to understand is the mechanism driving the worst of this damage. It's a tactic called business email compromise, or BEC.
Right, and the report showed that single tactic accounted for nearly $2.77 billion across tens of thousands of incidents.
Exactly.
But, what really stood out to me in the data was the catalyst behind the massive spike we're seeing right now in 2026. It's generative AI.
Oh, AI has completely changed the game.
Completely. AI tools have driven an almost unbelievable 1,760% year-over-year increase in these BEC attacks. I mean, we aren't dealing with the old days of poorly written scam emails from a supposed foreign prince anymore.
No, not at all. And what's fascinating here is how AI has fundamentally altered the mechanics of the crime.
How so?
Well, historically, fraudsters made mistakes, right? They had typos, or they misunderstood local real estate jargon, or maybe they just got the timing of a closing wrong.
Right. It was obvious it was a scam if you looked closely.
Exactly. It was a manual, labor-intensive process for a criminal to impersonate a professional. But generative AI has effectively removed human error from the criminal side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it has taken a crime that used to require meticulous manual effort and turned it into this automated, grammatically perfect assembly line. And because of that, human judgment alone is simply no longer sufficient to catch these attempts.
That makes total sense. It's as if burglars used to just walk down the street jiggling doorknobs to see what was unlocked.
Right.
But now, thanks to AI, they have a master key, a perfect blueprint of your house, and a cloned voice of your spouse telling you it's perfectly fine to open the front door.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. And, we have to look at why real estate is taking the brunt of this new weapon. It is just the perfect storm of vulnerability.
Because of the money involved.
That's a huge part of it. You have extremely high-value transactions. I mean, the median home price is well over $400,000 now. Plus, you have immense time pressure.
And so many people talking to each other.
Exactly. You have a massive web of multiple communicating parties. Buyers, sellers, agents, title companies, lenders, inspectors.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It is. Add in the fact that property records and listings are entirely public information, and you mix that with completely fragmented security standards across the industry. I mean, it's an irresistible target for an automated attack.
So if that's the macro picture, the 16.6 billion, the AI automation, walk me through how this actually plays out on the ground. When we move from the statistics to the micro realities, what does the anatomy of one of these scams actually look like during a transaction?
Well, there are three main vectors where this fraud hits hardest. The most common, making up about 30% of all cases, is buyer cash to close fraud.
Okay, so that's targeting the buyer directly.
Right. This is where criminals impersonate title companies or real estate agents and prey primarily on first-time buyers.
Because they don't know how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. They know these buyers don't really know the normal cadence of a closing process. And the median loss there is almost $240,000. It's devastating.
That is life-ruining money. And the second type?
The second type makes up about 20% of cases, and that's mortgage payoff fraud. This is where fraudsters intercept the payoff statements between financial institutions and just redirect the funds.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the human toll here is unbelievable. Take the case of Sarah Dombrowski from the report. She's a title company owner who had been in the business for 27 years.
Right. I remember reading about her.
Yeah, in 2024, she found out a $311,785 mortgage payoff wire simply hadn't arrived at the bank.
That quote she gave was chilling.
Yeah, she described the realization of that missing money as being like hitting a Mack truck at 60 miles per hour.
I can't even imagine.
Her entire business, her employees' livelihoods, everything was suddenly in jeopardy because of one intercepted communication.
It's hard to even fathom that level of panic. But, there's a third category that honestly sounds like something out of a movie. SellerNet precedes theft, or seller impersonation. The data shows this is about 12% of cases. How exactly does someone steal the proceeds of a house they don't even own?
It requires a shocking amount of audacity, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
There is a deeply unsettling case study out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, the dentist, right, Dr. Craig Adams.
That's the one. He had the deed to his multi-million-dollar mansion fraudulently transferred entirely without his knowledge.
How is that even possible?
What the fraudsters do is target vacant or rarely monitored properties, like vacation homes or, investment lots. They forge the deed documents, create fake identities complete with forged notary stamps, and then they list the property below market value for a quick all-cash sale.
And because they are pretending to be an out-of-town seller, they demand a remote closing, right?
Exactly. They demand a remote closing, the buyer wires the money to the fake seller, and the real owner has no idea their property was just sold out from under them until, someone shows up with moving boxes.
That is literally terrifying. But going back to the business email compromise for a second, there was that Connecticut real estate case involving a home buyer named Richard Bates who lost $597,000. How does a hacker actually use an email inbox to steal $500,000 without anyone noticing until it's too late?
It's a masterclass in patience, really.
Yeah.
Hackers breached a law firm's older email system, but they didn't just blast out a fake email immediately. That's the old way.
Right, the AI way is different.
Instead, they act like a ghost in the machine. They sit quietly in the inbox and set up hidden auto-forwarding rules. They monitor the transaction details for weeks. They watch the pricing, the timing, the contacts.
Just lurking there.
Just lurking. If a client emails a real attorney asking a question, that email is secretly forwarded to a hidden folder the hacker controls. The real attorney never even sees it. And then, at the exact right moment, usually right before closing, the hacker sends fake wire instructions that look entirely legitimate from the actual email address, referencing the exact correct dollar amount.
Wait, I have to jump in here and admit some confusion. If real estate professionals and consumers generally know that email hacking exists, why are they still falling for it? Isn't it just a matter of doing what we've always been told, double-checking an email address character by character, picking up the phone to verify, just slowing down for 5 seconds?
In a sterile, perfect environment, yes. But real estate transactions are anything but sterile. Fraudsters are absolute masters of psychology.
What do you mean?
They don't just send an email. They engineer a high-pressure scenario.
Yeah.
They exploit the emotional and logistical chaos of a move. They love to strike late on a Friday afternoon.
Oh, right, when everyone just wants to go home.
Think about the mindset of a buyer at 4:08 p.m. on a Friday. The moving trucks are literally idling in the driveway. The kids are crying. The weekend is looming. If they don't wire this money right now, they lose the house and have nowhere to sleep.
Yeah, that is a ton of pressure.
In that state of heightened anxiety and desperation, the cognitive load is so heavy that people simply miss the red flags. The urgency overrides their logic.
So, what does this all mean for the industry? Because that anxiety isn't just an isolated feeling, it is shifting the entire business landscape. I mean, the days of consumer ignorance are officially over. The data shows that 82% of consumers are now fully aware that AI can be used to impersonate professionals.
And that high level of awareness is breeding an intense level of friction in the market. 61% of consumers feel their funds are actively at risk during a transaction.
Which makes sense given the numbers.
It does, and it's actually changing how they behave. Nearly half of consumers, 46%, reported that they actually delayed sending their funds because of security concerns.
Wow, almost half.
Yeah, and that hesitation damages the client experience, slows down the economy, and creates headaches for everyone involved, even when nothing actually goes wrong.
I noticed a really fascinating geographic quirk in the data regarding that exact consumer awareness, actually.
Oh yes, the regional differences are striking, and they tell a very clear story. The West region of the U.S. has the highest rate of fraud, with 26% of consumers receiving suspicious communications.
Right.
Yet they have the lowest rate of consumer education on the topic, sitting at just 15.2%.
That's wild.
Conversely, the Midwest has the lowest rate of suspicious communications, but they have the highest rate of wire fraud education at over 28%. It shows a direct, undeniable correlation. Proactive education directly mitigates risk.
But here is the data point that really stood out to me as a game changer. 85% of consumers are willing to pay extra for wire fraud protection, and 71% said they would gladly pay $51 or more out of their own pocket for it.
Yeah, people want to feel safe.
And when they were asked what actually builds trust, they prioritized tangible accountability, specifically things like hard insurance coverage on the transaction, far above just like getting a pamphlet on proactive education. Security is no longer just some back-end IT expense that companies groan about having to pay for. It is a highly desired customer service feature.
That's a critical paradigm shift for any business owner listening. Proactive communication about using verified, secure platforms completely eliminates client anxiety.
Absolutely.
When a business can guarantee protection, security transforms from a sunk cost into a major competitive advantage. Clients want to know that if the worst happens, they are tangibly protected, not just warned.
Which naturally leads some real estate businesses to say, hey, don't worry, we don't need all this expensive new software. If something goes wrong, we have a really great recovery plan to get the money back. Why is relying on fund recovery a completely flawed business strategy?
Well, to be fair, recovery is possible in some cases. CertifID's Fraud Recovery Services, or FRS, has a 69% recovery rate. Over time, they have successfully recovered $118.4 million in stolen funds.
Right. There is this incredible success story out of Florida in the sources that really highlights how that works when everything goes perfectly.
Oh, the title company case.
Yeah, a title company accidentally wired nearly $650,000 to a fraudster who was impersonating a seller's attorney. But because the company realized the mistake and reported it within an hour, the FRS team partnered with the U.S. Secret Service, they engaged the receiving bank directly, and they managed to recover 99.99% of those funds in just 14 days. It's an amazing save.
It is an amazing save, but we must look at the dark side of that statistic. What about the other 31% of cases where the money is simply gone?
Right, just vanished.
The trail goes cold, the funds are moved offshore or into crypto, and it's unrecoverable. Those aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. Those are lost down payments. Those are shattered retirements and destroyed dreams of home ownership.
And even if you are in that lucky 69%, even if the Secret Service swoops in and every single penny is fully recovered, there is a reputational death sentence for the business that allowed the wire to go to the wrong place to begin with.
Oh, without a doubt.
The data shows that 56% of consumers say they would be unlikely to ever work with a company again after a fraud incident, regardless of the recovery outcome.
Trust, once broken in a financial transaction of this magnitude, is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. I mean, a client doesn't care that you got the money back eventually. They care that you put their life savings at risk in the first place.
Exactly. Relying on fund recovery is like leaving the bank vault door wide open and just hiring a really fast detective to chase the robbers down the street after they leave. It's reckless.
This raises an important question for any real estate professional. How are you allocating your resources? Prevention must be your core strategy.
It has to be.
Recovery is merely the safety net. You cannot build a sustainable business model on the hope that the Secret Service can freeze a fraudulent wire in time.
So, if human intuition is entirely compromised by AI and relying on recovery is a fool's errand, how do we actually build a fortress? How does a title agent or an attorney securely verify an identity without seeing the person face to face?
You have to fundamentally change the way you communicate. The absolute golden rule of modern real estate, and this is best practice 2 in the guide, is this. Never send wire instructions via email. Period.
Wait, not even like a password-protected PDF?
Nope. Even password-protected PDFs attached to emails are vulnerable because the email channel itself is compromised. You have to move communication out of the inbox entirely.
And what do you replace it with? Because you still have to get the account numbers to the buyer somehow.
You pivot to multi-party verification through dedicated encryption systems. This is best practice 14. You have to remove the vulnerabilities of digital spoofing by forcing the user to prove they hold physical assets.
Explain how that works mechanically. What does that actually look like for the user?
It's a rigorous, multi-layered digital checkpoint. Instead of clicking a link in an email, the user logs into a secure portal. First, they have to scan a physical government-issued ID.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then, the system verifies their phone number by sending a secure text code to the physical SIM card registered to that device.
Oh, so they can't just use a Google Voice number.
Exactly. Then, they have to take a live biometric selfie to match the ID. Then they answer unique, out-of-wallet security questions that aren't on public records.
Wow, that's thorough.
And finally, the system runs device verification in the background to flag any suspicious IP addresses, VPNs, or login locations.
So you are shifting the verification away from something a remote hacker can easily fake, like an email address, and forcing them to produce a face, a physical ID, and a registered cell phone. That is a massive leap in security.
It is. And that level of verification becomes absolutely critical when we talk about closing day protocols. That's best practice 15. We discussed the extreme danger of the hectic, late Friday afternoon closing earlier.
Right, the psychology of the rush.
To combat that psychology, businesses need to implement a strict dual verification process. That means 2 authorized internal team members must independently review and approve a transfer before it goes out the door.
A buddy system, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Furthermore, pre-closing verifications shouldn't happen at the closing table while everyone is stressed. They need to start 3 to 5 days early. That acts as a buffer, giving the team time to calmly resolve any red flags without delaying the actual closing.
What I found fascinating about their approach to security, and this was best practice 22, is that it's not one size fits all. You don't put every single transaction through the exact same level of friction.
Precisely. You need risk-based security matrices. Your rules have to be tailored to the risk profile of the specific deal.
Can you give an example?
Sure.
Yeah.
For instance, a $300,000 local family home sale where the buyers and sellers are local and the closing is happening in person at the title office might just need standard staff verification and the ID scan.
Makes sense.
But let's say you have a $2.5 million commercial building purchase. The buyer is a foreign investment group. There are multiple out-of-state LLCs involved, and they are demanding a remote digital closing.
High risk.
Very high risk. That transaction requires significantly enhanced security protocols. It requires documented ownership structure validation, partner-level review at the firm, and explicit, documented dual control measures for the final wire transfer.
And for the law firms listening, there is a whole other layer of complexity regarding attorney-client privilege that's covered in best practices 20 and 21. Law firms have this massive added burden.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to rigorously verify identities and share these financial details to stop fraud, but they have to do it within an entirely protected space that doesn't expose confidential client communications to third-party software. State bar associations across the country are heavily scrutinizing how firms balance this.
It's a very delicate balance. It requires using systems that can create immutable audit trails to prove to auditors that verification happened, while simultaneously respecting client confidentiality and restricting unnecessary third-party access to the actual data. It's complex, but in today's landscape, it's mandatory.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you take all of these concepts, getting entirely out of email, utilizing multi-factor biometric ID scanning, creating closing day buffers, and applying risk matrices, when these are layered together, the technology actually works at an incredible scale.
The results speak for themselves.
They really do. In 2025 alone, these comprehensive verification systems prevented $283 million in financial loss across over 1,000 successfully blocked transactions.
That is the power of a comprehensive layered defense. Effective wire fraud prevention isn't one silver bullet. It combines identity verification, account ownership verification, deeply secure communication channels outside of email, behavioral risk scoring, and finally, robust insurance backing. When you stack those defenses, you shrink the attack surface so dramatically that the automated fraudsters simply move on to an easier target.
So to bring it all together, we started by looking at a $16.6 billion cybercrime epidemic. We explored how generative AI has armed fraudsters with the ability to create perfect, highly contextual impersonations that completely bypass human logic.
And we saw the real-world damage.
Yeah, we walked through the devastating mechanisms they use to hijack buyer funds, intercept mortgage payoffs, and even steal the proceeds of a home from right under a seller's nose. But we also saw the blueprint for the fortress, the rigorous, multi-layered digital and physical checkpoints required to stop them in their tracks.
The landscape has fundamentally shifted. Hoping for the best is not a strategy. Tangible protection is no longer a luxury. It is the baseline expectation of the modern consumer.
Exactly. So for you listening, ask yourself, how is your organization operating right now? Are you still sending wire instructions over archaic, vulnerable email systems, crossing your fingers and hoping your recovery detective is fast enough if things go south?
Let's hope not.
Right. Or are you actively building a fortress? Are you turning robust, documented prevention into a competitive advantage that your clients will eagerly pay for? Because the burglar isn't just jiggling the doorknob anymore. They are at the door, they have the key, and they sound exactly like someone you trust.
And that new reality leaves us with a final, rather profound question to consider.
What's that?
As generative AI continues to rapidly perfect the art of human impersonation, cloning voices in real time, generating flawless documents, mimicking human behavior perfectly, will we soon reach a point where the traditional concept of a wire transfer becomes entirely obsolete?
Oh, wow.
If human judgment can no longer be trusted to verify identity over any digital channel, will every financial transaction in the future require hard biometric or cryptographic proof, fundamentally changing the speed, the cost, and the very nature of how we buy and sell property?
That is a massive question to chew on. It's a brave new world out there. Stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
In a world where change is the only constant, Mohs Jamil stands at the forefront, guiding title professionals to not just grow their businesses, but to master the art of innovation. With every episode, you're handed the keys to unlock unparalleled growth and stay ahead of the curve. Get ready for a transformative journey